to the music of the Holy Spirit. Oh, what a song God is singing. I will listen all day long. I will listen all day long. Oh yeah, hey yeah. 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 Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. I am lifted in the love of the Holy Spirit. Oh, what a joy God is being. Praise the Spirit all day long. Praise the Spirit all day long. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. I am moving to the rhythm of the Holy Spirit. This dance of life, God inspires, keeps me dancing. My faith is strong, keeps me dancing. My faith is strong. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. There's a silence in the stillness of the Holy Spirit. Oh, what a light God is shining. Let us see it everywhere. Let us see it everywhere. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Welcome. Today is Palm Sunday. I don't know if you know that. Some of you were not raised Christian.
But if you were, Palm Sunday was a big deal. It is a big deal to still many Christians. They've got palms around and they're celebrating Jesus coming into Jerusalem. But it's hard to relate to what was happening 2,000 years ago. So I want to help you out a little bit so that you can get an idea of the excitement that was happening 2,000 years ago, give or take. Well, it's now 2100. Woo, baby. Anyway, a long time ago. Long time ago. Long time ago. There should be a song like that, right? I want to give you an idea of what the excitement was like, because it's hard to translate some cultures into our culture. Like, what's the big deal? Jesus was going into Jerusalem. So, well, let's put it into context. Jesus was sort of a rebel rouser, and he was trying to stay away from the general authorities that did not have his best interest in mind. So he stayed away from the capital. That would be like staying away from Seattle. And so he hung out in places like Gold Bar and Enumclaw and Poulsbo. He was always on the periphery, but he didn't go into town much because he did not want to arouse suspicion by those people who could hurt him. But he was becoming a Jewish superstar. Now, to explain that in a minute. I mean, a real superstar. And people believed that because he was Jewish, just never be mistaken. He was born Jewish, he died Jewish, and in the middle he was still Jewish. And he said that I have a way of living. And the people that followed him called themselves followers of the way. That's just a little history. So I want to give you some ideas of what that was like for those people, believing that he would show up in Jerusalem because it was Passover, and most good Jews would show up in Jerusalem to go to the temple, because at that time, holy people went to the holy place, and the holy place was in Jerusalem at the temple. So since he was considered a holy man, they figured that he would come to this holy place and they'd get a glimpse of him. And the excitement was palpable. What was it like? I'll tell you what it was like. How many of you remember when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl? Oh, first service, not so much. Second service, of course. Anyway, you remember the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl? How many of you took time off from work to go downtown to be part of the parade? Oh, yeah. And, you know, there isn't even any parking. How you got there, I don't know. I mean, how did you manifest being there on those crowded streets to see somebody drive by and you were so excited you were going to do it anyway, right? All of a sudden, traffic phobe went out the window. People had to be there. Ooh, it was on the TV. Woo! You'd see somebody drive by. That was the excitement of Palm Sunday. Because he was at the time, the Jewish superstar for 3 reasons. Number 1, he was charismatic and he attracted crowds. They liked the way he talked. They liked his analogies. They liked the way he just sort of showed up, and it's even said he seemed to be talking as one with authority. And then they'd say, but how can he have authority? He comes from Nazareth, which is like saying, he comes from White City. Or something. Not Seattle, and not Olympia, not Tacoma. Some fringy place that people can't even remember the name of. So how could he have authority? He comes from Nazareth. In fact, they even said, what good comes out of Nazareth? But he didn't care where he was born from. He didn't care that there was a rumor that he was an illegitimate child, which is why they put so much emphasis on how he was born. He let all of that go and says, you know, I don't care where I was born. I don't care how I was born. I got the goods, and I'm going to share it with you. He was charismatic. Now, charisma in and of itself isn't enough. Hitler was charismatic. So it's got to be something else, too. The next thing was, he was also repulsive. He was like, he said wild things. Wild thing. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, anyway. Now you know how old I am. He was charismatic, and he attracted crowds, and he repulsed them also. He was also like how the phenomena of the car wreck on the side of the road, where everybody slows down. They don't have to slow down, but they want to see it. How many of you know that people get attention because they're so outrageous in what they say that then people have to know what they will say next? What will he say next? Does this sound familiar? Let me give you an example. One of the things that I said before, and I'll just say it again because I think we have to understand this to understand the Gospel according to John. The Gospel according to John was written much, 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 much later than Jesus was around. It couldn't have possibly been written by John unless he was a very, very, very old man, almost like, 180. It was written about 130 years later. It was definitely written by what the Jewish people would call heathens or Gentiles. They were Greek. There's all sorts of Greek emphasis in the Gospel. That's why it's so different than the other three Gospels that were written by Jewish people. And they had their own explanation of things, and they were definitely influenced by the initiation rites of the mystery schools of both Egypt and Greece. And so this story was sort of a Greek initiation story, so they put words in Jesus' mouth that he may or may not have said because it didn't matter what he said. They wanted to get the idea across that you could evolve yourself as a human being into remembering your spiritual essence. So it was a catalyst. A catalyst doesn't make anything happen, it just speeds things up. So it was to speed up what was going to happen anyway, which is we are going to evolve. We're not going to be the same. How many of you are the same as you were at 13? You evolved, right? Well, we are eternal beings and we're constantly evolving, and frankly, I'd really like to speed up. And to speed up the process of identifying more with my spiritual reality than my human conditionality. Because I incarnated, but oftentimes I will identify with this world because I incarnated into it. And I forget that I am that which incarnated. So I lose then my spiritual powers when I forget. And if it's true about me, it might be true about you. So this book is about allowing us to move through this process of waking up sooner. So I say all that about the Greek emphasis and the Greek perspective because, and this is in John. I mean, this stuff is just right out of John. He's talking about the bread of life, and I am the bread of life, and if you don't eat of my body and drink of my blood, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. Jewish people wouldn't like that, nor would they say that. A Jewish person would not say that. They didn't like blood. They avoided bodies. That was not okay. You didn't touch a dead body. You didn't touch a woman that was bleeding. You didn't touch blood. You just didn't do it. This is not a Jewish teaching. But they did know enough to say, and the crowd said, oh, this is too much. I mean, it's really, in the book of John, this is too much. I don't think we can handle this. I'm out of here. However, to a Greek person who was raised on the myths of Dionysus and Gaia, the earth, all of that represented the circulation of life. They would have thought that was a great saying. So no wonder they put it in Jesus' mouth. No wonder. Because that bread is the body of the earth. That wine is the blood of the earth. It's not, but it's Jewish. I mean, it's Greek, not Jewish. So They knew enough to say that if Jesus was saying this, he was turning some people off. So he was attracting them and repulsing them. And then there was this whole reported story about him raising Lazarus from the tomb, which only shows up in John. If it had happened, it seems like it would show up in the others' stories. Mark, Matthew, Luke. But since it only shows up in this story of John, which has a huge Greek influence, can you see that what they were working with was that last initiation rite? And the last initiation rite in a mystery school was you dying to the past so you could rise again into the present. It was death and rebirth, symbolized in the acting out of something. But in this story, they don't just have a death and rebirth, they make it a little tense. And the tense part is that Lazarus is in trouble and he's sick, and his sisters call for him. Hey, go get Jesus. Jesus can solve anything. Jesus. Oh, they probably didn't say it that way, since that wasn't his name. Go get Joshua. He can do anything. And it says in this story that he tarried for 2 days, meaning he didn't go save them. See, if this is the story of us waking up, we also have to wake up. We can't go save everybody, and we're not supposed to save everybody. We are to wake up to the fact that some people get to work this out, that God is just as present there as it is here. And eventually he said, I wish you would have known. Why didn't you trust yourselves? See, some spiritual people hate to see other people suffer. The problem with that is that sometimes we don't like to see them suffer just because we're uncomfortable with suffering. Sometimes part of waking up is stumbling. What I believe about the Christ, what I noticed from all the stories in all 4 Gospels, is that the Christ was willing to go anywhere, even uncomfortable places. Places where other people didn't want to go. Hung out with prostitutes, talked to them, got in the sun with them. Tax collectors. And when Lazarus was working out his initiation, Jesus didn't save him. He later reminded him. I noticed the whole room got quiet. There was a time once I was at a retreat and I was sharing something that was uncomfortable for me because I was around a friend, and I knew that my friend was going to be leaving this incarnation. And I was sad. And I was sad. I was crying. Made me sad. But even in the middle of me speaking, someone had to rush over and try to comfort me and make me not feel sad. It's like, no, let me have my experience. I'll live through it. Honest. I noticed that at the retreat we had last week that everybody was really good until there were disagreements and opinions. And some people wanted to leave the experience because it was uncomfortable that not everybody was getting along. But the Christ can go anywhere. Nothing is off limits. Wow, that's a lesson, huh? See, I think that's the real lesson of this thing with Lazarus is he was willing to have people fret He was willing to have people go through their own experience of the event. He was willing not to take away their experience. That's the way I saw it, because the story could have said it differently. It's important that it said, and he tarried 2 days. I believe that Jesus was a living example of the great myths and teachings of the ancient world, and that can be disruptive. Even good stuff can be disruptive. Even challenging the status quo or the illusion of control can be disruptive. Because historically, the Romans were really running Israel and Jerusalem. They were really running it. But the temple authorities were living by the illusion that they had some sort of control. And they didn't want a Jewish superstar who people were saying, crown him, let's make him king, upsetting the Pax Romana, which is the peace of Rome, which basically means as long as you don't get uppity, we'll let you live in peace. But don't make us come in there. And he was willing to upset that apple cart just by being who he was, saying what he needed to say, living the way he needed to live. And in the meantime, because of that living, he did things that other people didn't do or couldn't do. He was a healer. He so identified with the one, and he so identified with the perfection of the one, that around him people got well. And his apostles and his disciples wanted to know more about that. In fact, they'd go off and they'd say, we can't do what you're doing. And so why aren't we able to do what you do? And he says, because you don't have any faith. I love it. You know, I love it. The Christ just tells the truth. Your faith is weak. Not, oh, I'm sure you'll grow into it. You'll get better. Your faith is weak. So they said, well, so give us better faith. And he said, I can't give you better faith, but I'll give you a prayer. And even though it's not in the Gospel of John, I just love this prayer. It's called the Lord's Prayer because it shows up in 3 other Gospels. And when they asked for greater faith, he said, well, pray this way. Sort of like, walk this way, only it's pray this way. I'd still want to do Metaphysics, the musical. Or how about Kathy Ann's version of the Bible, the musical? That would be, I would really be happy. So, how many of you know the Lord's Prayer by heart? Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who have sinned against us. Lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from evil, for thou art the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. I mean, rolls off your tongue. You can't even not say it. And it's a bunch of bunk. Why is it bunk? Because for 2 reasons. It was what he said, and then how it was translated so many times, it became institutionalized, and it was probably far from what Jesus said. So I want to give you another version based on the Aramaic, the words that he used, and also the enlightened additions from New Thought mystic Emma Curtis Hopkins. So this is the Aramaic Emma Curtis Hopkins Kathy Ann version. All right? And it's much more powerful. I say this on my way to work. The word that Jesus used that has been translated as Father did not have a male connotation. It was source. Yeah, that changes everything, doesn't it? Instead of my Father which art in heaven, and actually, but here's the word, heaven was feminine. No, kingdom is feminine. Kingdom should be queendom. So, instead of my Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, it would be better because Father is actually source, but since we want to be equally opportunistic for any way that people see the deity, let's just say Father, Mother, God within. Why? Because heaven is within. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Father, Mother, God within. Holy is your name. And holy is whole. The whole thing. You are whole. Ernest Holmes has a lot about you are whole, complete, and perfect. Now, perfect doesn't mean by human standards, like you got to look a certain way, you got to be a certain height, you got to have all your limbs. You can't have any deformities. Can't wear glasses. I don't know what whole is. I mean, we're so crazy. What it means is that you are, then the whole and the complete and the perfect is that you have all you need to express who you were incarnated to be. Nothing can stop your expression. Whole, complete, and perfect. Holy is your name. And name is also nature. So it's holy is your nature. And it's within. Father, Mother, God within. Holy is your nature. So you start there. Your kingdom, or should have been queendom. Your queendom is here now, not some other time. Your kingdom not is come, it's come, but it's now. That means it's now. We're not going there when we die. Who invented purgatory? That's just crazy. I mean, talk about putting it off. Not only after you die, then you got to go into a waiting room. I mean, never mind. Your kingdom, your realm of power is here now, and your will is done within me. I will to will thy will. Now give me this day not my daily bread. That is stingy and selfish of the divine abundance. Here's some bread. Here's some bread. No, it's not gluten-free. There's your bread. Stop with the gluten-free. There's your bread. The word that was translated as bread was substance. Substance is everything. It's what you need. You need your substance. So another way of saying it is, give me this day everything I need. Doesn't that feel better, fuller? Give me everything I need. And forgive my lack of confidence on understanding to command the law. Forgive my lack of confidence and understanding. It could be confidence, it could be understanding. I was just been doing this for so long, and then all of a sudden I realized that it's not confidence I needed. We need to understand how to command the law because we're not doing it. We're hoping, we're wishing, we're lukewarm instead of this is it, this is how it is. If I want to build my faith, I have to have confidence that the law will understand me and react to what I am saying. We've got to have confidence in that. Forgive my lack of understanding to command the law. And then, how many of you lead me not into temptation? Doesn't that just sound like what God would do that? I love you. Come on. Let's just see if you'll sin. Come on. Come on. Ooh, come on. Actually, a gentleman wrote to a rabbi. There's a rabbi that answers spiritual questions in spirituality and health. And somebody actually wrote to him and said, do you know that our Pope is putting words in Jesus' mouth? He changed the way the Lord's Prayer is. He changed it from lead me not into temptation to don't let me be tempted. And the rabbi said, doesn't that express a kinder, more gentler, loving God? Why would God tempt you? Why would you have to ask, don't tempt me today? Besides that, no one was actually taking dictation. I mean, think about how they had to write, if they could write. So another way of looking at this is don't let me be tempted by appearances. It's said that Jesus had said, don't be tempted, Judge not by appearances. Don't be tempted by appearances. Things can look a certain way, but it doesn't mean that this way is the way that it is. Don't be tempted by this surface reality, because in and through that reality, there is a spiritual reality. Look to that. Let me see that. Don't let me stop believing that good is happening, because it doesn't seem to be right here. Don't let me be stopped. Let me see through this to a greater yet to be. Don't let me be tempted by appearances. And don't let me believe in evil. And evil is the sense of separation from our good. For you are the realm of power and glory within me forever. For you are the realm of power and glory within me forever. You are not just the realm of power and glory. This is finding an expression in me, and it will be that way forever. So, Jesus comes in, I think quite humbly. It says that he rode in on an ass. That's what it says. It's in the Bible. I'm not cussing. He rode in on an ass, which is a symbol of humility. He was being humble because everybody's going, hey, Zana, ho, Zana. Well, at least they did in Godspell. Zana, Zana, hey. You know, and they're so excited. It really was Superstar Day. And he was lowering himself, and it was on a colt. It was a new horse. I mean, a new donkey. It's young. It was a symbol of humility, because he wasn't buying his press. See, we shouldn't take ourselves seriously. If this story is our story, don't take yourself seriously. You can take your message seriously. You can take your connection with the all seriously. You can take your purpose on earth seriously, but not the ups and downs of other people's opinions. Because he knew that as high as they were putting him, that's how low he would fall when he did not live up to their expectations. And he did not live up to their expectations. They honestly thought, and this is historic, that if he showed up and he was doing such a great job in Enumclaw, that as soon as he showed up in Seattle, the governing authorities would be run out of town. He would have the power to run them out of town. And once again, I'm not going to save you. I'm here to teach you how to be in the world, but not of it. I'm not here to solve your problems. I'm here to give you the power to solve your problems. For greater things than you've seen me do in Paulsburg, you shall do also. For us, that means that we must praise principles and not personality. When people are doing good things, we say, oh my goodness. Whatever they're using, whatever is using them, I want that also. Jesus was saying that whatever you project onto me, you can do as well. If you're projecting onto me that I'm a healer, you can be a healer. If you're projecting onto me that I'm a seer, you'll be a seer. If you're projecting onto me that I am wise, you're wise. Greater things than what you're seeing, what you're making up about me, you shall do. So I want to go back to the Seahawks. This is the way that I wish it would be. I wish that when the Seahawks did their parade, that they'd held a huge rally. And they'd said something really wise. Wiser than, I'm so grateful that you're our fans and we do it because of the fans and the fans feed us and we're really grateful for all your applause and your support. So I'm really grateful that you buy the tickets that pay our salary. And I don't mean to be snippy about that, but let's just say that, yes, they won it, and they got paid well for it. Here's what I wish they'd said. I'm really gifted at running. I'm really gifted at throwing the ball and having good hand-eye coordination. And another one would have said, I'm really good at leaping into the air and catching that ball. We're really gifted with a coach that knows strategy and how to read the other team and what we need to do to face that team and win against that team. We're really lucky. But we have strengths and talents that we were born with, and we have excelled at using those strengths and those talents. But every one of you, I wish I'd said it to all the kids and everybody out there going cheering, every one of you has a strength and a talent. Some of you can do fine things with your fingers, and you should do great art like embroidery or become a surgeon. Some of you know how to listen, and you should use that strength and that talent for good because people need to be heard. And some of you know how to take abstract concepts and teach it in such a way that anybody can get it. I hope that you become a teacher or a professor. I hope that some of you can dance, and you should go out there and dance and bring beauty to this planet because we need to be inspired by beauty. And some of you can paint, and you should be painting. And some of you just know how to nurture, and I hope that you have a lot of kids and that you bring them up so that they know who they are. See, that's the teaching that we should be getting when we go and applaud someone else. And that person, whoever we're applauding, should say, this is just my talent, this is the way I was born, but all of you were born with something. Wake up to it, use it, express it, because that is the way. That is the Jesus way, and so it is.